Hello there guys, RMP792 here. Okay, Star Trek Discovery Episode 5. Oh, Jesus, this show. There was some good stuff in this episode. I would like to make that clear at the beginning. There was some really good bits of this episode. There was also a lot of very, very bad in this episode. I think we're on episode 5, aren't we? Yeah, episode 5. So the episode was entitled Choose Your Pain, incidentally, which, oh God, I really wish they'd stop choosing such depressing titles. Anywho, so I'll do vague overall stuff first. Good stuff. This episode was not really about Michael that much, which is good. You know, while she is the show's main character, it's good to get a chance to see the other characters without her. If that makes sense. You know, it's good to get some sort of, you know, some smaller, more personal moments in between other collections of characters. Because again, that's when Star Trek's at its most interesting. When it's doing smaller character stuff and when it's doing big philosophical stuff. And since this show doesn't really seem interested in doing big philosophical stuff beyond isn't war bad, then, we're going to have to deal with primarily the small character stuff, which was interesting to see in this episode. There was some genuinely good bits of that kind of stuff, and I hope to see more of it in upcoming episodes. As for the bad, there was a lot of bad in this episode. Mostly to do with Harry Mudd. Yeah. For anyone who hasn't seen the original series or hasn't seen it in a long time, Harcourt Fenton Mudd is not an original character. He was created for the... I mean, let's face it, Harry turned up in about the third or fourth broadcast episode of the original show. He turned up early in the episode Mudd's Women, where he's basically transporting a group of women to be, to basically become wives for some miners. And he's kind of a sleazy dick. And he's also a con artist. And yeah, he's a bit of a coward. And he turns up again in I, Mudd, where he's basically accidentally ended up as the ruler of this planet of robots. And they will do absolutely anything he wants. Except let him leave. Because they have to have, a life form to serve to give their existence purpose. And yeah, he might have surrounded himself with, beautiful robot women. He's still ruinously bored, stuck on that planet. And so he basically gets them to bring the Enterprise crew there to basically replace him as the humans they're looking after, so he can get the hell out of there. So yeah, it's Yeah, the character here did not feel anything like Harry Mudd. So, right. Going back, I'm going to go right back to the beginning of the episode and take it all the way through. Or as near to chronological order as I can remember. Obviously, some scenes will probably get switched around because of association. But anyway. So we basically start off with, Lorcia, who from now on I will eternally refer to as Gabe. Seriously, you call your main character Gabriel, and he has now become Gabe. So anyway, Gabe's back at Starfleet headquarters, basically saying, this spore drive is awesome, we've done all this good stuff. And basically saying, you might want to throttle it back, because we think the Klingons have identified, the Discovery exists, and they've probably figured out that it's the only one that can do this. So until we can replicate the technology and get it out among Starfleet vessels, you need to tone it down, because we can't risk losing you and the critter, because at the moment the critter's the only thing that can navigate it, and they need more of them. So he's casually sort of scooching back, and then a Klingon D7 battlecruiser drops out and gets them. That was not a D7 battlecruiser. That didn't look anything like a D7 battlecruiser. The D7 battlecruisers are the ones you see in The Undiscovered Country, the ones with the giant sombreros. Yeah, just look it up. You'll see what I mean. So yeah, that ship was not a D7. And more to the point, later on they comment on it having a crew of about 40 to 50 people. D7s are a lot bigger than that. They're comparable in size to the Enterprise. They've got crews of several hundred. So that was a fan, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, hey, hey, that fell ruinously flat because I'm a continuity nerd. Throwing things like that at me, all it does is make me point out how you're doing it badly. Anywho. So yeah, so they, so Gabe gets captured, and his pilot, who is a random schmuck we've never seen before, gets killed. So long, Mr. Redshirt. We barely knew you. So, it's pretty clear that they did this on purpose, so somehow they've learned that the Discovery exists and that he's its captain, and he would just conveniently... Where the hell was he coming from? Because I was assuming originally it was Starfleet headquarters on Earth, but it was obviously far enough out towards the front that the Klingons were able to rush in, grab him, and rush out. So was that meant to be some sort of forward starbase or something like that? It was kind of vague. Could have done with being explained a little better. And for that matter, why wasn't the Discovery just if the captain has to go to a special meeting, why was this goddamn ship not just parked there? Because especially given that it's got a magic drive that lets it jump around near instantaneously, having it hang around somewhere far away so the captain can poodle along in a shuttle and get kidnapped, that felt kind of dumb and kind of contrived. So anyway, that basically leaves Saru in command of the Discovery, and he pulls up a list of highly decorated Starfleet captains to basically find out what are the traits that define good Starfleet captains. I have some problems with this list of Starfleet captains because again, I'm a nerd. Top of the list was the original captain of the Enterprise. Okay, keep in mind at this point the Enterprise. As far as we're aware in Starfleet canon, his job on the Enterprise was basically certifying it. It was basically fly it around the system a couple of times, fly it around, maybe to Vulcan and back, that kind of stuff. Just to make sure everything was working fine. And then he handed it over to Captain Pike. Now, admittedly, we don't know very much about him in Star Trek canon, so it's entirely possible he's done some stuff beforehand that actually, made him, get on the list. That's fine. Jonathan Archer being on the list, it's a nod to Enterprise fans. And I can see Jonathan Archer being quite highly decorated given the amount of stuff that happened over the course of Enterprise. That's fine. Decker is the Commodore from the Doomsday Machine. And you assume that if he made Commodore, he was probably reasonably well regarded as captain. So again, timeline works out fine there. The problem I have with this list is Pike. Pike should not be on this list, given that Pike was promoted to captain to become captain of the Enterprise. And by this point in the timeline, if it's about 10 years prior to the beginning of TOS, the Enterprise has been pootling around the galaxy for about a week. If that. So Pike should not be on that list as a highly decorated captain unless he did something when he was a commander to get really well decorated and then became a captain. So yes, technically he is. So, yes, later on we have the Christopher Pike Medal for Valor. The reason that's named after him is because of the incident that puts him in the chair. The one from the menagerie where he basically, where there's some sort of hideous radiation leak or chemical leak or something of that ilk. I can't remember exactly what it is. And there's a load of trainees in there because at that point he's basically teaching. And he rushes in, gets a whole load of them out, but gets a fairly deadly dose of whatever the hell that stuff is, and ends up confined to a chair. And he went in knowing he was probably going to die, but he went in to pull those people out. That's why the Christopher Pike Medal for Valor exists. He hasn't done that yet. So once more, continuity problems at Goga. And Captain Georgiou being on that list, fine. But that's me just being kind of pissy and nerdy, so moving on. So Saru's trying to science himself into being a better captain, which, fair enough. That's actually an interesting thing to go with, because he clearly doesn't have the confidence. And he's seen with Michael later where he basically says, he's jealous of her because she got to basically serve as Georgiou's first officer for a long time and learn a lot from her. And he wanted that opportunity. He basically wanted her to move on, get her own command, and then he would have the opportunity to learn from Giorgio as she did. That's an interesting, dynamic. And yeah, I like that as a concept, because you do see, captains and their first officers getting very attached throughout all of Star Trek. Whether that be Kira basically learning that the Federation aren't a colossal bunch of dicks and that she can work with them, and eventually, actually becoming a sort of serious friend of the Federation to all intents and purposes through her friendship with Sisko. Whether that be Kirk and Spock's enduring friendship over God knows how long. Whether that be Janeway and Chakotay, which, sorry shippers, but all of this kind of stuff. There's always kind of a bond between the captain and the first officer, and the fact that Saru is effectively jealous of that between, because now he's stuck with Gabe, who is just kind of a dick. We'll get to that later. So in the meantime, everybody on board the ship, apart from Michael, is being a colossal moron. Because when she's basically saying, yes, we appear to be hurting the creature, using it for these jumps. Oh, well, who cares? It can regenerate. Okay, I've consulted with our medical personnel and they've checked, and it's definitely hurting the creature, and it may well be killing it. Well, we need it. Yes, but if it craps out on us in the middle of a jump, we're dead. If it craps out on us when we're in the middle of Klingon territory and we can't jump out again, we're dead. They really should be listening. I appreciate Saru's kind of gone into full-on panic mode at that point because the captain's been captured and he's not sure what the hell to do, but he was acting like a dumbass, basically. At the moment, this continues to be the Starfleet vessel of complete dumbasses. Which is impressive, given that they're taking that title away from Enterprise at this point, and that takes work. Because, man, was that ship crewed by dumbasses a lot of the time. But, anywho, so, he basically gets angry with her and she ends up getting confined to quarters. Which does at least give some of the other crew members a chance to do some stuff. So, they basically figure out that the way that the tardigrade interacts with them is some gene swapping thing with the mushrooms. It's technobabble. It doesn't matter. It's basically they figure out they can replicate it in a human, but it does technically mean breaking, conventions based around the eugenics wars, because genetic modification of humans is still banned because of the eugenics wars in the 90s. I'm going to make the same joke every other thing I've read, has commented. You remember the 90s? Pop music, terrible fashion choices, dark slate of comic time, eugenics wars. Yes, for anyone not aware, the eugenics wars in Star Trek canon is basically people tried to create genetic supermen. It worked. Those genetic supermen tried to take over the planet because superior ability breeds superior ambition, which is a lovely quote about them. The most famous of those guys was Khan Noonien Singh from Space Seed and The Wrath of Khan and the not very good Into Darkness. So yes, that's why Khan has such a damn superiority complex, because he actually is superior. Augments are kind of terrifying. Faster, stronger, smarter. The whole 9 yards. So as a result, any kind of genetic tampering is banned at this point. They get a bit looser about it later, because we know for a fact the Doctor on Voyager mentions slight genetic modification being, used as a cure for something. It obviously gets loosened up later, but at this point, they're still quite twitchy about it. And at that point, my basic order was, oh god, they're going to plug Michael into it, aren't they? I can see that coming. They didn't. I am going to give them absolute props for this. They did not give the gene therapy to Michael and have her plug herself into it. Good piece of misdirection there. I was genuinely expecting it. Instead, Stamets does it to himself. Well done, show. I did not see that coming. That was a good, good twist. In all this, however, we do get probably the worst scene of the it's not the most morally repugnant scene of the episode, but it is the worst scene of the episode. Namely, the bit where Tilly describes what they're doing as. Should I? No, I'm not going to use the language, but hearing the F-bomb dropped in a Star Trek show, even when they're talking about something nerdy and sciencey, is just really, really wrong. Here's the thing. It felt, weird when Data said, "Oh, shit," as they were coming in generations. But that was just them going, well, it's a film. We can kind of push it a little bit. It's funny. Whereas here, just having Tilly, randomly burst out that what they're doing is effing cool, and then kind of apologise, and Stamets just looks at her and goes, "No, it is effing cool." There was no need for that, and it felt completely wrong in Star Trek. Because it was just wrong. It was. Dropping the F-bomb in Star Trek is flat wrong, and I'm sorry, I don't see a way around that. Because they could have achieved exactly the same effect by just having Tilly basically go, "This is really cool," in a just massively overly done, overexcited way, and just have both of them look at her in a kind of nerd way, and just have her apologise, and then have them go, "No, actually, you're right. It is really cool." Just to admit that, yes, tone it down, but, we're impressed as well. So, the F-bomb did not need to be there. That was pointless. I probably ought to get back to Gabe, shouldn't I? So, after being captured, Gabe is shoved in a cell with some random schmuck who dies pretty much immediately. Harry Mudd, who, as I said before, why did this character have to be Harry Mudd? It's the same question of why did the Vulcan family that adopted Michael have to be, why am I blank? Sarek. Why did the Vulcan family have to be, Sarek and Amanda? It could have been literally any Vulcan family and it would have worked just as well. And same goes for here. This could just have been any random dude. It did not have to be Harcourt, Fenton, Mudd. And there's also a guy in there who is so blatantly, obviously a spy, it's not even funny. Specifically, the Ash Tyler, I think he claimed his name was, who's basically claims he's been there for 7 months. Because the Klingon captain has taken a liking to him. Well, that's sinister. But can I point out, he's apparently played by the same actor who plays the albino Klingon Vok. Given that the original series established that the Klingons weren't above surgically altering their own people to act as spies within the Federation, I'm 90% sure that's what has happened here. Which does at least mean, hey, that guy gets to act! Without being held back by A, copious amounts of makeup, and B, having to speak bloody Klingon. Because, oh my god, I am so glad there were not any scenes of them talking in extended Klingon in this episode. To the point where even when the captain turns up and is, torturing him and she's actually speaking English, it was like, holy crap, acting! Not just reading the bloody, lines off cue cards. But anyway, so he's blatantly a spy, which actually means there might now be a point to that Tribble. Because everybody commented that it was silly he had a Tribble on his desk. And the theory that I saw and repeated to you guys in, I think it was the episode 3 vlog, was that since Tribbles freak the hell out around Klingons, that Tribble might be there explicitly to root out spies. It might help root out Vok here. So, if they don't end up doing that, then the Tribble was pointless and they should feel bad. Just for the record. So, yes, they torture Lorca with... Lorca? Gabe. They torture Gabe with light, which, given his basically established, extreme photosensitivity, makes perfect sense. They do explain effectively how he got that, and he basically says that he got it because he blew up his own ship rather than let the Klingons take his people hostage. Okay, things that need to be explained here. Why wasn't he on board the ship? Or was he and he basically managed to get to an escape pod and nobody else did? And why are we supposed to like this guy? Because at the moment, he's a bastard. And you can... I'm going to take a different... I'm going to use an example of another character in Star Trek who is a complete bastard. Who is willing to do whatever it takes, when whatever is necessary to get the job done. Elam Garak. Elam Garak is a fantastic character, and that's at least partially because he is so damn morally grey. In the Pale Moonlight, he is the one who basically knows right from the beginning that the plan is to kill the Romulan senator. He knows he'll have to do that right from the beginning. Maybe the rod will pass muster, but no, he figured he'd have to kill him. And he went into that perfectly fine with that, because as far as he was concerned, it was worth trading one life for billions. And in the end, Sisko reluctantly agrees with him on that. One life for billions was a worthy trade. Whereas here, Lorsa... actually, you know what Gabe reminds me of here? He reminds me of Decker. Because in the Doomsday Machine, it's basically established that Decker's entire crew is dead because he beamed them down to a planet to get them to safety while the ship was basically having the crap shot out of it, and he stayed behind. And then and after the ship was crippled, the machine basically ignored him and then destroyed the planet where he just sent all of his crew. And he's basically gone mental as a result of the guilt. Whereas Gabe seems to have gone into full-on bastard mode. Again, Jason Isaacs is a good actor, but with what he's given, he needs more moral greyness. Otherwise, basically at the moment, Gabe is the crazy admiral and or captain of the week, except he's one of the main characters of the show. Which would be fine, but he needs a lot more nuance, is what I will say. They torture him for a bit, and it's unclear how much information he gives away. Probably not much. He might be a bastard, but he is a tough bastard. So they probably get name, rank, and serial number kind of thing. Eventually, again, I'm going to compare this to another torture episode, Chains of Command. Chains of Command is all about the Cardassians, David Warner's character in particular, attempting to break Picard. That is an episode. That's a really good episode, and it's a really good character piece for Picard. And David Warner as the interrogator is blowing it out the park. Here, there's no evidence of what the torture does to Lorsier himself, and as a result, it just feels meaningless. So they go back to the cell, and the guards come in, and one of them starts beating up Tyler for a bit, and then they pull a switcheroo and get their guns and somehow take out two Klingons in melee, despite the fact that they're both wounded and beaten up. And no, not possible. The only way this makes sense is if it turns out that this was done on purpose to let them escape in order to get Tyler on board, and I doubt those Klingons would know anything about it. So, yes, this feels contrived. Because I would like to point out, Klingons are stronger than humans. Significantly stronger. They come from a warrior culture that trains most children how to fight. Two wounded dudes managing to take them out is not realistic in the slightest. It's lazy. They should have had to come up with a smart way of doing that rather than just relying on force of arms, because they should lose force of arms, basically, is my main problem there. So they get out, and then comes the bit of the episode that really made me think that Lorsier is just a bastard. He leaves Mudd behind. No. Mudd is not a good person. He's a swindler, he's a crook, he's a con man, and yes, he was, basically giving the Klingons information in order for them to not kill him. That doesn't mean you leave him behind to get tortured to death. Not even slightly. This doesn't even make sense from a being a dick point of view, because from a being a dick point of view, you can use him as a meat shield. This is just pure, unadulterated, unnecessary cruelty, and I did not like it in the slightest. And here's the thing, Harry Mudd doesn't like Starfleet. If a member of Starfleet had done this to him, Harry Mudd would be murderously opposed to Starfleet. So, yeah. despicable actions by one of our heroes, and the character just does not work. At the moment, Gabe is not working for me as a character. He needs massive change and massive growth in order to become even slightly likable. And Jason Isaacs is doing his best. Jason Isaacs has played complete bastards before and made them likable. But the way he's written here, he's just got he doesn't have enough to work with. So that was a thoroughly despicable act, and I did not like it. So they eventually get out, shoot some guards. The disruptor effect was weak. Here's the thing. Disruptors, when they hit their target on a full disintegrate charge, they kill them slow. We've seen how long it takes a disruptor blast to actually disintegrate someone. It's a good 2 to 3 seconds. Disruptors are meant to be sort of deeply horrible weapons when they're on full charge. So, and once again, they get into some melee and they win it unconvincingly. And the captain gets her face badly burned, so she's almost certainly turning up again. If they just killed her flat, there. But major disruptor burns to one side of her face. Yeah, she's turning up again. You can pretty much guarantee it. So Gabe and Tyler basically get into a. I have no idea what that was. Sort of Klingon shuttle fighter craft thing. Again, the designs are weird. They look nothing like anything we've seen before. So they're running, and Saru eventually manages uses his knowledge of sort of hunter prey dynamics to basically figure out that one ship is getting chased by the others. Which I actually like. That is him playing to his strength and using what he knows rather than just trying to imitate other people who've done well. Which is good. That's a genuinely good bit of character moment for Saru, where he basically realizes, I need to stop running away from what I am. I need to accept what I am and figure out how best to use that to the advantage of myself and my crew rather than, just trying to emulate more successful captains. Because that's ultimately what the best Starfleet captains do. They play to their own strengths. Picard is a diplomat. Kirk is a deeply charming bastard. And let's face it, there's a reason why Kirk plays poker so well. Why Kirk can play both chess and poker so well. In that he is basically an unconventional strategist who's very, very good at bluffing. Whereas Picard is a diplomat who can fight when he needs to. Sisko is basically a soldier, through and through, and an excellent tactician. And, Janeway is, to all intents and purposes, an explorer and a scientist. And she uses that to her advantage a lot of the time. So and Archer's a massive idealist. And that's honestly when he gets the best results, is when he admits that he has a massive ideal for how he wants things to be, and he's going to do his best to make it that way. So all of the captains have something going for them that basically makes them so damn good at what they do. And they play to their own strengths, which is what Saru kind of learned he needed to do there, which worked really well. There was also the offhand line about, lower your shields, we can beam you back. Yes, they remembered that you can't beam through shields. Good. We've had this problem in Star Trek before where people forget that. But anywho. So yes, they beam them back, and then they use their super drive to jump away. In spite of the fact that earlier in the episode they stressed out the tardigrade so much that it went into some sort of stasis and shed almost all its water. Weird, but okay. And they basically go down to engineering and find out that Stamets has given himself the injection and used it to control the drive. Which, as I say, I was expecting to be Michael. Good job, show. You faked us out on that one. So he basically giggles massively because it worked, and the people I was watching it with were basically saying, "Has he just kind of lost it?" And my comment is, "No, I think that's meant to be just holy crap, we're alive" giggles, but. And then we basically get what amounts to the end of the episode, where 2 bits at the end of the episode. The first bit is where they let the tardigrade go. Where it's the case of, how can we here help this poor creature? We can flush it out in airlock. Brilliant! Okay, letting it go for its own good was very Star Trek. Realizing that what they had been doing is wrong and doing their best to correct it was Star Trek. But it was done in a really dumb way because there was no implication that they knew this would work. If it was a case of once they'd managed to sort of reawaken it and then they basically deliberately let it go by giving it access to, I don't know, enough spores that it could, transmute itself the way it did, that would be fine. The way it was presented there, it looked more like they were, flushing their dead fish down the toilet, to all intents and purposes. So yes, that was not good. Again, it was a very Star Trek moment to basically, where it sort of, unfurled and it just had this freedom look at its face and it skedaddled. But yeah, it was not. It was done in a dumb way. And then we have the, I think it's pretty much the last scene of the episode, where you've got Stamets and his, I'm assuming boyfriend. That if it was husband, they'd have specified it, and I don't think they did. But yeah, holy crap, we have a gay main character on Star Trek finally. We've been after one of those for bloody years. And I'm pleasant. I'm quite pleasantly surprised. I would assume they'd have beaten us over the head with this information before now. And the way it's actually done seemed reasonable to me in terms of, it's not really there to beat you over the head with it. It's just, here's a scene between two people who are in love with each other, and one of them, and they both happen to be dudes. So that I actually genuinely quite like that. It would have had more impact if the Doctor character had been in more than this episode. If he'd been in the previous two as well, and if he was such a minor character that I don't remember him. So, but so they have a nice little scene which basically amounts to please try not to do anything this mental again. I don't particularly want you to die. And it's just, it's a cute little scene. And then, something weird happens right at the end, which I wasn't 100% sure what was meant to be weird about it, other than the fact the music was going, this is weird! So there's almost certainly going to be long-term consequences for him injecting himself with the stuff. And my comment, to Jake was basically, cool, we have a gay main character on Star Trek. He's going to die, isn't he? So yeah, this was not a good episode. This episode had a few really good moments suffused under a sea of not that good. It wasn't awful, no matter how much I'm coming to despise Gabe as a character, but it was not good. Because too many of the people were acting like complete morons. The swearing was unnecessary and just... I'm not going to stop watching. I'm going to watch the whole bloody season because it's Star Trek. And here's the thing. All Star Trek shows start off bad. That's even true. I mean, the original series is the best example of hitting the ground running for a Star Trek show, and even that has got some very janky early episodes. I mean, really hideously janky. But first season of TNG is virtually unwatchable. First season of DS9 is not good. First season of Voyager is pretty damn terrible. First season of Enterprise is just really bad. So, if Discovery is floundering at the moment, they've got, it's Star Trek. Assuming they manage to pull it back, I will be happy. At the moment, the only way they're going to redeem Gabe is for him to die at some point, because at the moment he is just irredeemable. I can genuinely see that happening at some point. Gabe gets killed, probably in some sort of noble sacrifice, and Saru. I don't see them making Saru the captain. I see Michael somehow ending up as captain. I'm not guaranteeing that's going to happen. That's hypothetical, random, wild ass stuff. But there obviously has to be massive downsides to this spore drive. Otherwise, they just keep using it in the future. So yeah, that's all I got for the moment. So yeah, episode 5, Choose Your Pain. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.